Live from Austin, Texas. All right. Share out that stream, boys. Just a $5 super chat from Bojangles. Thirsty Thursday. Get your hand off that liquor bottle, sir. How about another Stoic parable today? When I was young and free and my imagination had no limits, I dreamed of changing the world. As I grew older and wiser, I discovered the world would not change. So I shortened my sights somewhat and decided to change only my country. But it too seemed immovable. As I grew into my twilight years, in one last desperate attempt, I settled for changing only my family, those closest to me. But alas, they would have none of it. And now as I lay on my deathbed, I suddenly realize if I had only changed myself first, then by example, I would have changed my family. From their inspiration and encouragement, I would then have been able to better my country, and who knows, I may have even changed the world. There you go. Ministry of Truth. Let's not worry about it too much today. Let's get into what we do best. Taking the information from you guys, providing it to everybody in the world in the crypto scene. Let me get this light up. Hello and welcome everybody to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner, which is yours truly. I go by Blind Run on the internet. Yes, that comes from an old gamer tag, and I am a gamer. Next, of course, in real life, I go by Matthew, and today we have, of course, lots to talk about. Bitcoin miners, pretty much all miners are going into debt. Why? We're going to be talking about that. Intel Arc Alchemist A770 graphics card is spotted on Geekbench and Puget Bench, so we have more leaks from that. AMD RDNA 3 multi-chip module GPUs launch schedule is revealed. Exciting stuff there. And the AMD Instinct MI300 GPUs are rumored to go all on board with 3D stacking design. Not dissimilar, of course, from what they did with this 5800X3D Vcache. So That's going to be super cool. We have Representative Madison Cawthorn appears to have violated the Stock Act by failing to disclose that he purchased some Let's Go branding cryptocurrency. And of course, this is going to be an extremely biased article. And then, of course, the mining profitability for the day. We did switch over to Hive on right now. And that's because we did a tutorial yesterday for how to get Polygon payouts through Hive on. So check that tutorial out if you're interested. Yesterday, I also worked on quite a few other things with Chadwick's Gaming. So thanks to him for helping me out with Darrow. And then I started dabbling around in Ixion. Of course, if you pay attention to the crypto mining show, you get some easy, quick things like that. One of the things I'm looking into is for all you members, going ahead and creating like a timed release where it goes into the membership videos first of what projects I'm working on, not specifically how to do them, not how-tos and stuff, but let me know if that's something you're interested in, because I know a lot of people want to know, you know, what coins am I spec mining? What have I been building? That sort of stuff. I'm thinking of like doing like a weekly wrap up, maybe on Saturdays where we time release it. And then it's a week out for everybody that's not a member. Why would we do this? Well, if you guys aren't familiar with spec mining, essentially we can cause a lot of network issues if it goes directly out to the public from my channel, and we just blow up the difficulty and everything. So one of the ways I was thinking about giving something extra to the members, as well as, you know, being able to help some of these networks move along and so on, is just, and not destroy them, is to go ahead and create like a timed release. That way the members get something special. I think there's only like 450 members right now. And then of course, later that would release maybe a week or 2 weeks out as some sort of time release. But before we get into it today, well, here's how you can become a member. Today's sponsor is myself. To support the channel, click the join button below the video and you will get access to our privately hosted Rocket Chat. Selecting the $1.99 option will get you access, and after that you need to head over to the membership tab, scroll down, and expand out your membership perks. Find the section for connecting on social media, and in that section there will be a secret registration URL to join Rocket Chat, where you can sign up to enjoy talking with other cryptocurrency enthusiasts and miners without spammers, scammers, or bots. Boom, best sponsor in the game, most reliable, least profitable. Let's go ahead and get into it right now. Intel Arc Alchemist A770 graphics card spotted in Geekbench and Puget Bench benchmarks coming from WCCF Tech. As always, the Intel Arc A770 graphics card was recently tested through the Puget Bench DaVinci Resolve benchmarking software. During the output release on the internet, the graphics driver used for the test was unknown. It says now 30.0.101.1723, when there is a separate branch created for an overarching driver, it will at times signify that there is unreleased hardware being used, raising questions as to the mysterious parts in question. The newest Intel driver appears after the drivers for the Intel Arc 1330 and iGPU 1660 variants, the numbers replacing the 1723 in the version. The new driver may be pre-planned to support the latest desktop Arc graphics cards. However, this is currently under speculation as Intel has not commented on the recent string. The last driver was published on April 8th, and that was close to 1.5 weeks after the launch of the new Arc GPU laptop series. The driver delivered fixes for the first initial period after launch. However, the list of current issues remains to be quite lengthy. Arc-based GPUs shipped with the Intel Arc control software currently use their versions. Intel has yet to confirm if the company plans to merge any of the multiple drivers into one single driver. As you can see here, we have a screenshot from the Puget Bench DaVinci Resolve 0.93.0, which is using DaVinci Resolve Studio 17.4.6. Overall score 500, 4K 17, GPU effects score 45, and the Fusion score 88. You can see here that you have it running on a 9600K CPU, and then it is the A770 graphics card is what it says here. And then It has 16 gigabytes of system memory, and then I think it's, where is it? Well, yeah, it just says the video card in that driver version there. The Puget DaVinci test examines the rendering of graphics with an expansive scope of codecs at 4K and 8K resolutions only for extended presets, OpenFX, and other quality performance in Fusion. It is not a benchmark test to measure performance or quality. In the leaked information and engineering board, typically used for Intel employee testing purposes, the Coffee Lake S UDIM RVP was utilized, as well as the Intel Core i5 9600K CPU, which is also used in internal testing by the company. They typed internal 3 times. Come on, WCCF Tech. I already have a hard time reading. In addition to the Puget benchmark, the Arc Alchemist A770 has reappeared within the Geekbench benchmark, now with a 3% performance boost compared to the previous entry. While this is an improvement, it's still a far cry from the competing options of the 6700 XT and the RTX 3070. As you can see here, it got a score of 88,235, beating out the 2070, but still behind the 6700 XT and the 2080 and the 3070, which is way up here. Intel's newest Arc A770 is an ACM G10 based graphics card for desktops. The graphics card will launch with 8 gigabytes and 16 gigabytes of GDDR6. It is also anticipated to compete with the RTX 3060 and 3070 series cards in terms of performance. However, as we have reported before, Intel has been relatively silent about performance data before the release, so we'll need to wait a little longer before seeing accurate data from the tech manufacturer. What do you guys think about this? Like, I'm curious. I'm wondering if Intel's strategy is, because it's frankly going to be a release behind Ada Lovelace and, of course, the RX 7000 series from AMD, almost releasing very close to those launch dates. It feels like we're going to be talking about those launch dates here in just a second. But if that's kind of the plan, are they going to lean into crypto mining, like GPU crypto mining? Is that a potential possibility for them to really garner some revenue? I would if I was them, because you need something to go ahead and boost it. If we're going to be completely honest about Radeon specifically catching up to NVIDIA over the past 4 years, a huge proponent, a huge cause to that was the first crypto boom. And that was the 2016 to 2018 range. That crypto boom basically helped Radeon get enough funding, of course, along with Ryzen taking off too. But if we're being completely honest, that helped Radeon from all their Polaris GPUs being extremely popular for crypto mining, to the 5000 series, to even the 6000 series. But primarily that Polaris boom really helped AMD and Radeon catch up on the graphics side. It's not a bad strategy. Of course, it would be pretty slow growing, because we know that GPU mining is waning and the interest in it is. But if they could get competitive memory performance and memory intensive algorithm performance, I think that that would be the best bet. That's the strategy as Intel, if I'm trying to launch a GPU, that I would be utilizing to get some extra sales out of it. But that's just my 2 cents on it. I could be completely wrong. However, as we have reported before, Intel has been relatively silent about the performance, of course, is what it says here. Intel Arc A770, 256-bit memory bus, 16 gigabytes of GDDR6. That is pretty awesome from a memory performance standard. Also, if you're talking about that versus the 3070 Ti or the 6700 XT, it has more memory, double that of a 3070 Ti, which means that potentially you have more options for basically mining algorithms that have growing DAGs, will last longer, that sort of thing. It's interesting to see basically 16 gigabytes at that level of GPU performance, which is essentially going to be, at this point, guaranteed 2070 performance, but potentially even more. All right, so let's go ahead and get into RDNA 3 multi-chip module GPU's launch schedule is revealed. Navi 31 for the 7900 series in Q4 of 2022. Navi 32 for the 7800 series in the first quarter or first half of 2023. AMD next-gen multi-chip module RDNA 3 GPUs for the Radeon RX 7000 series graphics cards have been detailed once again by Moore's Law is dead. While the information revealed is pretty much the same that we've heard over the past few months, what's new are the launch schedules, which show that AMD will release its flagship variants as early as Q4 of 2022. Based on the latest information from MLID, both the Navi 31 and Navi 32 GPUs will utilize an MCM solution, but there's a possibility that the Navi 31 GPU could make use of 3D stacking, while the Navi 32 GPU could make use of a standard multi-die approach. Similar to AMD's Instinct MI250X. It looks like Navi 31 might get a similar design as the Instinct MI300 GPUs, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. We have more information from them, which are going to feature a 3D stacking technology that fuses the GPUs on top of the I/O die. We have heard the rumors of Infinity Cache being on a separate die, so that might be what's going on here. As for Navi 32, it will carry on the same design approach as the MI200 series. Both the Navi 31 and 32 GPUs will be composed of 6nm I/O and 5nm GPU chiplets. That is the manufacturing process from TSMC. Remember, we talked about earlier this week that there is the potential for 4nm. I think it's all but pretty much confirmed on the competitive Ada Lovelace launch that's coming out soon as well. So as for the launch schedule though, the AMD Navi 31 GPU will appear within the flagship 7900 series by the end of Q4 2022. Do note that the Navi 33 GPUs based on 6nm monolithic designs will be the first to hit shelves. The Navi 32 GPUs for the Radeon 7800 series will launch in the first half of 2023. Also, the reason why I don't believe Navi 33 GPUs will end up with the RX 7600 series branding and instead use the 7700 series is simply the pricing. There are rumors that the Navi 33 graphics card will end up in the $400 to $500 US range, and they are meant to replace the existing Navi 21 parts. As such, it doesn't make much sense to brand high-end graphics cards as a 600 series product. There was also a recent rumor about AMD Navi 31 featuring a total of 7 chiplets, 1 IOD, 2 GCD, and 4 MCDs. So there will be 2 GCDs sitting on top of the IOD, while the MCD can either sit on top of the GCDs or the IOD. It will be one interesting GPU configuration to see the start of the chiplet era in gaming graphics consumer segment. That is by far the most exciting thing, I think, right now happening from a technical perspective on the PCB designs from Radeon is going to be this chiplet design that we saw really push the CPU market forward for AMD, and I'm super excited to see it hit the graphics card side. Now, from a mining perspective, will that help? In some algorithms, yes. Things like, I think like Flux and Ton and maybe even Ravencoin, things that utilize the core, yes. Things that don't utilize the core, they're more memory intensive, Ergo, Ethereum, those types of coins, I don't see huge improvements coming from a multi-chip module design. But either way, it's still exciting nonetheless, just if you're a nerd over, graphics cards in general. The AMD Navi 31 GPU, the flagship RDNA 3 chip, would power the next-gen enthusiast cards such as the Radeon RX 7900 XT graphics card. We have heard that AMD will drop compute units in favor of work group processors on its next-gen RDNA 3 GPUs. We've talked about this design before. And basically, I mean, the rest of this we have already covered. You can basically go back and watch it on a different one. We'll go over specs though, I suppose, here really quick. Here's where the Navi 33 sits. You have a 128-bit bus, a 192, and a 256 of GDDR6. This will be the faster GDDR6, presumably at 19 gigabits per second over the 16 to 18 gigabits per second on the previous generation. So we should get even some better, of course, mining performance on memory intensive unit or algorithms for mining, but not a ton. So Yeah, there you go. It's not going to be like the GDDR6X improvements to 24 gigabits per second that we are going to be seeing from NVIDIA. But of course, we do have more information on the MI300 GPU. It's going to utilize quad multi-chip modules, CDNA3 GPUs, featuring 3D stacking with up to 8 compute dies, HBM3, PCI Gen 5, and 600 watt TDP. Now, this is a big boy, but of course, this isn't your traditional desktop lineup. This is going to be your data center lineup for the most part. AMD Instinct MI300 GPUs will be powered by the next generation CDNA3 architecture, have been detailed by Moore's Law is Dead. The new GPUs will be powering the upcoming data centers and are rumored to be the first to incorporate a 3D stacking design. Last year, Kepler L2 revealed that AMD Instinct MI300 was going to feature 4 graphics compute dies. Later, this was confirmed in a patch where the chip appeared as the GFX 940 part. This was essentially going to double the MI250X, which features 2 GCDs, but the difference is that each GCD will feature 2 compute dies. So for the Instinct MI300, we are going to get up to 8 GCDs on the top variant. In fact, the Instinct MI300 family will not be a singular GPU, but will comprise several different configurations. The top AMD Instinct MI300 GPU will feature a massive interposer that measures around 2750 millimeters squared. The interposer has a very interesting configuration that packs 4 6-nanometer tiles that contain the I/O controllers, IP blocks, and measured around 320 to 360 millimeters squared. These tiles are based on 6-nanometer node and may also include some form of cache, though it's not confirmed yet. Now, on top of these I/O stacks, AMD will be using the brand new 3D stacking technology to incorporate 2 compute dies. These brand new AMD CDNA3 architecture-based compute dies will be fabricated on a 5-nanometer node and feature a die size of around 110 millimeters squared per tile. Currently, there's no word about how many core or accelerator blocks each compute die will hold, but if we keep the same SP to core count as MI250X, we get up to 28,160 cores, but once again, this is just a mere speculation since a lot can change within CDNA3. Since the memory controllers are on board the bottom I/O die, they are connected to 2 stacks of HBM3 using more than 12 metal layers. Each die is interconnected using a total of 20,000 connections, which is double what Apple is using on the M1 Ultra as a part of the Ultra Fusion chip design. As you can see here, we're up to the HBM3 from the HBM2E, and the maximum bandwidth is going to be 819 gigabytes per second, which is absolutely incredible. HBM3 is going to be fast, boys. Now, while AMD is still relying on 8 stacks, they are newer HBM3 standard, which is the same as the one NVIDIA is using for its Hopper GPUs. Currently, MI250X uses 8 HBM2E stacks, which are 8 high and feature 16 gigabytes of memory per stack, 128 gigabytes per module. It may be likely that AMD raises the stacks to 12 HI, which is something that SK Hynix has already teased a while back. This would allow for up to 192 gigabytes of memory capacities on the top Instinct MI300 GPU configuration, marking a 50% increase. As for the TDP, each CDNA3 tile will have a TDP of around 150 watts. As for configurations, they're as follows. The top config, 4 I/O die, and then 4 GCDs and 8 compute dies. The bottom one I/O die, 1 GCD, and 2 compute dies. So based on that, the top configuration will consume around 600 watts of power. The mid config will consume around 300 watts of power, and the entry level around 150 watts. Currently, the top Instinct MI250X configuration consumes 560 watts of power and comes in the OAM form factor. The Instinct MI300 GPUs will be launching next year around the same time when Intel and NVIDIA will be out with their latest data center products such as Ponte Vecchio, something like that, and Hopper. So, Overall, new designs, craziness coming out. HBM3, obviously with Hopper also going to be HBM3. It's going to be some fast memory and way out of the price range of pretty much what you would want to pay probably for whatever the mining performance will be, which will, I think, obviously be pretty crazy as far as what it looks like. The numbers will be incredible. Now, getting into politics, fun stuff. Make sure if you are, a politician, you are disclosing all of your purchases of cryptocurrency. But Representative Madison, which is Republican too, Republican Representative Madison Cawthorn appears to have violated the Stock Act by failing to disclose Let's Go branding cryptocurrency purchase. Republican Representative Madison Cawthorn of North Carolina appears to have violated a federal conflict of interest law by failing to report his stake in a cryptocurrency named for the anti-Joe Biden slogan, Let's Go Brandon. By law, members of Congress must quickly and publicly report their crypto purchases in certified congressional documents known as periodic transaction reports. The purchase appears to have happened in late December, according to Cawthorn's Instagram profile. Cawthorn could have lied about purchasing the crypto, or he could have told the truth but failed to file the required documents. If he did make the purchase, he could be penalized over explicit House rules on cryptocurrency disclosure. Quote, all financial disclosure filings must disclose ownership of interests of virtual currency, end quote, worth more than $1,000, as well as purchases, sales, or exchanges of cryptocurrencies, the House Committee on Ethics wrote in 2018 memorandum to lawmakers and congressional staffers. Cawthorn's office did not reply to insider questions about what happened. He would have had no more than 30 days to make the disclosure, given that he would clearly have had direct knowledge of the purchase. Under congressional rules, he could face a minimum fine of $200. That's not much, but the House Committee of Ethics could grant him a waiver that would absolve him of the fine. News about the crypto purchase was originally published in the Washington Examiner, which reported that Cawthorn may be in violation of insider trading laws. If true, such a crime would be a matter for the Justice Department and the Securities and Exchange Commission to investigate. The Committee on House Ethics could also involve itself and should, one Republican senator said. Quote, insider trading by a member of Congress is a serious betrayal of their oath, and Congressman Cawthorn owes North Carolinians an explanation. There needs to be a thorough and bipartisan inquiry into the matter by the House Ethics Committee, end quote. Senator Tom Tillis, a Republican from North Carolina who has endorsed one of Cawthorn's primary challengers, said Wednesday. On December 30th, the value of all Let's Go branding coins in circulation eclipsed $570 million. By the end of January, its market cap dropped to $0. If Cawthorn violated a Stock Act, he would join 59 other members in Congress who have violated the 2012 Stop Trading on Congressional Knowledge Act. The law clarified that it was illegal for members of Congress to engage in insider trading and create disclosure requirements that allow the public to see whether their representatives can personally benefit in the votes they cast or the legislation they introduce. If lawmakers don't disclose details of their finances or do so in a timely way, the public is left in the dark about the potential conflicts of interest. Cawthorn's non-disclosure of his stated purchase, quote, raises serious questions of whether Cawthorn violated the law, end quote, said Kedrick Payne of the Nonpartisan Campaign Legal Center, who previously served as Deputy Chief Counsel of the Office of Congressional Ethics. Quote, the lawmakers should explain the discrepancy because the public has a right to know that their elected officials are not violating the law, end quote. Based on what's already in the public domain, quote, there is at least a strong case to be made that Representative Cawthorn violated the Stock Act's reporting requirements as well as potentially engaging in insider trading, end quote. Dylan Hetler, got it, something like that, the government affairs manager for the nonpartisan watchdog organization Project on Government Oversight, said, adding, quote, I'm reminded of the expression about something that quacks like a duck, probably being a duck, blah, blah, blah. So they go on to say there's numerous controversies surrounding, of course, this particular senator in question. You guys can go into that later. We're really just talking about the cryptocurrency portion here. Look, the public is going to be participating in cryptocurrency, and it's going to influence, of course, people that are in charge to participate within cryptocurrency. The insider trading part would be a little silly because obviously, as we can see here, by the end of January, the market cap dropped to $0. So what does he do? He didn't short it. You know, like if he was shorting it, okay, then maybe he knew something. But to lose that kind of money doesn't really seem to me to be necessarily an insider trading issue if I'm just looking at it completely objectively. Now, should our representatives basically have to report? Probably at this point, because they are public servants. Public servants should be serving the public, not serving themselves. And in the case that they are, of course, purchasing any sort of stocks or cryptos or anything like that, that should be completely transparent. If you don't want to be transparent about that, don't get into politics would be my recommendation as far as all this goes. Regulation surrounding, of course, cryptocurrency is getting tighter and tighter. And the first ones to basically get targeted will be the public servants, people that are, you know, that are representing the public and so on. Then it'll kind of move over to probably, you know, large, or I guess the big bags, right? Your Elon Musk, your Jeff Bezos, all that sort of stuff. Your micro strategies with Michael Saylor, that sort of thing. You'll start seeing regulations targeted towards them more strongly, and then it'll kind of trickle down. One of the things I did want to talk about though, because like I said, we've been going over like the sovereign individual, that sort of thing. And we've talked about this, I think, yesterday and the day before. But a point that I wanted to make is because a lot of people get really, really scared or squeamish surrounding regulation and what the governments are going to do. Once again, I always equate it to when somebody tells me that they're going to go chip everybody. It's like you can go chip 7 billion people, but you can't go punish 7 billion people for moving freely throughout the world. It's a very difficult thing to do. You can already see, like, clearly with criminal activity across the U.S. that the government's not going to be able to basically restrict everybody. It's not going to be possible. So once again, they may have the power, we have the numbers, and that is really where you can find some solace. Eventually, I do think that there is something to be said for a complete transformation in the way our society functions right now. And I do think it'll get a little bumpy here. We'll probably see more articles like this as well. That being said, let's get into miners going into debt. Yes, crypto markets are down, but the mining difficulty across networks, especially Bitcoin, continues to go up. Now, if miners aren't as profitable as they used to be, which of course Bitcoin miners, as we've been paying attention to, have significantly dropped over the past year, then you have a problem where if they want to continue to expand, they have to get the funds from somewhere else. Where are they getting it from? Well, better Bitcoin miners increasingly turn to debt financing. Raising debt rather than equity to fund growth is being seen as more attractive, analysts said, but not everyone has the option. And this is really the problem that we have to talk about, which is kind of interesting. Actually, it was funny. If you guys own a business and it's like listed publicly, you may get these types of calls. I know that as a crypto miner, I do get these types of calls. Most of them go to voicemail or whatever, but one got caught and went through on my, while I was driving yesterday. So I entertained it. And it was one of those where, like, we see that you're a small business owner. I have a loan shark essentially on hold. Let me ask you a few questions and see if you qualify. And of course, the first question was, how much revenue do you have in sales? And I was like, none. We don't do sales. And they were like, well, you don't qualify. But there are basically companies out there trying to give out debt, but it's very difficult, especially as a small, you have to do like usually over $15,000 a month. that sort of thing to even qualify. You have to have like an established credit record, of course, for whatever company. One of the reasons we do rent, which we've talked about before, is because that does build up credit for the LLC. That's kind of part of the reason we do it, so that later if we do need to get some sort of credit line to invest in equipment to spin up faster, that's what happens. The hard part is like, unfortunately with cryptocurrency, it's very difficult to move around and get traditional financing. So it really isn't an option for everyone. And the other problem with that we'll go back to is, how do you sit fundamentally on that, right? Because you're essentially, in a lot of cases, utilizing some sort of traditional financing third party, typically a bank, to fund something that is fundamentally against the institution that you're borrowing from, which is just wild to think about in the first place. Debt financing will be a positive catalyst for the shares of the publicly traded crypto miners whose stocks have tumbled in the last year, as crypto and broader equity markets saw significant sell-offs, according to Wall Street analysts. Due to their high correlation to prices of the assets they mine, crypto mining stocks saw rapid appreciation last year as Bitcoin prices soared to an all-time high. However, the rally evaporated this year with lower Bitcoin prices, rising network hash rate, and brutal competition. With markets off their peak, access to capital has also become somewhat restricted for the miners who need large amounts of capital to stay competitive and grow. Quote, access to the 3 M's, money, megawatts, and mining rigs matters more than ever, and based on investors' concerns around the capital needs, accessing capital efficiently seems to matter the most right now, end quote, said investment bank BTIG's analyst Gregory Lewis in research note this week. One way miners will be able to navigate this environment is by delivering on their promises to fund growth in more efficient ways by borrowing money rather than just raising equity. Quote, we expect funding concerns for some miners to be addressed in the near term as the Bitcoin mining financing markets matures, which should be a positive catalyst for miners who are able to access debt financing, Lewis wrote. This was echoed by investment bank D.A. Davidson's analyst Chris Brendler in a recent research report. Quote, we expect improved execution of mining operations and broadening access to debt capital to be positive catalysts for the miners near term, Brendler wrote. As industry matures, debt capital is preferred by investors given its non-dilutive nature. Indeed, offering equity in the current market has often not been kind to those who share price of miners. Most recently, shares of TeraWulf, which uses 100% clean energy to power its mining operations, tumbled about 30% on April 12th after the company said it would raise $20.6 million by selling common stock. Another miner, DigiHost, said in March that it would raise $250 million through an at-the-market equity program, which allows the miners to sell shares from time to time. At the time, DigiHost's market cap was less than $100 million, making a capital raise of $250 million, even over a period of time, a sizable amount. The shares of stock fell about 18% on March 4th, according to FactSet data. That hasn't stopped some of the miners from keeping their options open to equity raises through ATM offerings, which is at the market offerings, by the way. Most recently, Riot Blockchain, Bit Digital, and Mawson Infrastructure all filed to sell up to $500 million in shares. TeraWulf also said later in April that it plans to sell up to $200 million worth of shares through the at-the-market program. And in February, Hut 8 launched a $65 million at-the-market offering, and Marathon Digital filed to raise $750 million. The share prices didn't react as negatively right away, given the filings were shelf registrations, meaning there was no present intention to immediately sell all the securities being registered. However, most of these stocks have traded down with the market since their announcements. So, what are they saying? What have miners been doing or were trying to do during a bull market and they got in a little late. We're seeing basically they started getting these registered a little too late in a market that's going sideways, which obviously dilutes your consumer trust, I suppose, your retail trust, that sort of thing. So instead of doing that, they're shifting to the idea of taking on debt instead of selling shares in the company. That's essentially all that's really happening here. And a lot of that has to do, of course, with the lack of people that want to purchase the shares, hence why the stock prices on all of these are going down. Once again, I'll always remind you guys, if you're looking at this from an investment standpoint, if you want to invest in a mining company, be very careful, because now you have multiple points of failure. Not only do you have the point of failure of just the company itself, but you are dependent on the crypto markets as well. So what should you do instead? Well, you should just invest in the crypto markets directly. And that's really what you should be doing. In light of such market conditions, raising debt through creative ways has become an emerging trend among miners. Using specialized Bitcoin mining computers called Asics as collateral for loans has become popular among miners to fund their growth plans, as well as using mined digital assets as collateral. So we do have to talk about this too, because earlier I was talking about taking the traditional debt, from like an institution. We do have, of course, all the DeFi options that allow basically miners or anybody that participates in cryptocurrency to put up their cryptocurrency as collateral and get a loan on that, usually separate from all the banks and so on. How much of that is being done, though, is kind of questionable. How much liquidity is available there, too? Maybe we'll get a better idea. Most recently, Bitcoin miner CleanSpark raised $35 million in equipment financing backed by 3,336 new S19J Pro Bitcoin miners. Meanwhile, Australian Bitcoin miner Iris Energy secured $71 million in equipment financing backed by 19,800 Bitmain S19J Pro miners. And miner Greenridge Generation raised $81.4 million in S19J Pro backed loans. Now, I don't know how you get these loans necessarily, because it's super interesting, and I don't think it would apply for to necessarily your GPU miners. I don't know if that's a possibility, but I guess that's something you could look into at a smaller scale, potentially. Quote, although spreads and advanced rates are no longer improving in this environment, we are still seeing increasing opportunity to leverage secured debt solutions such as Bitcoin-backed debt facilities and rig collateralized equipment financing, end quote, Brendler wrote in his note. The sector has also matured with an expanding set of lenders that are starting to include more traditional financial, that's what institutions for the first time, end quote, he added. And I think this is what's really starting to happen, is the traditional financial institutions are trying to get in, because to them, well, how do I put this? To them, it's a safer way to invest in cryptocurrency than directly investing into it and giving, of course, their traditional financial investors, retail investors, options to participate within cryptocurrency without directly participating in cryptocurrency. And I think that makes a little bit more sense for traditional finance there. But however, BTIG's Lewis warns that access to attractive capital or debt terms that are more favorable for the miners may not be possible for all of them. He believes larger Bitcoin miners such as Riot, Marathon Digital, Core Scientific, and CleanSpark will have multiple options to raise debt, including asset-backed and potentially corporate debt. And so a lot of this can be frustrating from multiple standpoints, I think, as individual miners, home miners, etc., because obviously the more equipment that is online, the more competitive the network gets, making it more difficult to mine any cryptocurrency that's being mined by one of these large firms. And since they have the ability to collateralize all of this equipment, they can shoot the difficulty way up faster than we can stay up with them, right? And that means that essentially it kind of damages, the smaller investors, the smaller miners, and so on pretty significantly. And it's exceptionally frustrating when we consider that, for the most part, what crypto is, or what we have in hope for with crypto, is that it does enable the individual to have some autonomy there. And we do it through mining. So it feels like obviously some of that autonomy, financial autonomy, gets taken away when these people are basically able to utilize traditional finance, etc., to massively increase the sizes of their farms really quickly, regardless of price of cryptocurrency, right? So from my perspective, I'm definitely more dependent on the price of cryptocurrency than, say, one of these companies in relation to being able to expand, right? And that's kind of where we sit at. The ideal situation, because I get this question like, will GPU mining still be around? Will CPU mining still be around? That sort of stuff. And I think that'll be around for forever. We talked about yesterday, I believe, during my live stream on twitch.tv/blindrun, a project called Ixion. And it's similar to TON in the fact that to generate basically volume for a lot of these small projects, even if they do plan to move to something other than proof of work later on, like Ixion, for example, they basically have a distribution method to keep it fair of mining. So you have like 5 years on that particular network, for example, to go ahead and mine. I think that will continue to be around for quite some time. Now, I think that moving towards CPU specific mining and cell phone mining in particular are the ways to go for a more distributed hash rate power. Now that means that everybody that's mining, ideally, obviously, isn't going to make as much as they would if they're building large farms out, etc. But what you get from that is massive distribution. So if we really want to change things, we really want massive distribution and availability to everybody. That's why I think, like, obviously mining on a cell phone would be ideal in the end game, right? In the end game. And then obviously having some sort of easy to load, low requirement nodes for consensus, maybe built into the miner, that sort of thing. That's really where you want to push towards. Now, will you be as profitable as a GPU miner when these things start to inevitably move this direction? No, but we aren't necessarily trying to be millionaires as much as we are trying to distribute the wealth more evenly, I think, across society and bring up the entire society, because if we can bring everybody up, then that's where you start fixing a lot of the problems. That's my personal opinion, fundamentally, from there, and where I see mining going in the future. But GPU mining, all that sort of stuff, I don't think is going to go anywhere. We also have, of course, AI to get solved through proof of work with proof of useful work. We have different, stuff like folding at home there, which isn't really, that could be integrated, of course, as well. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Do I think it'll get tough? Yes. And when the tough comes, the tough gets going or whatever, essentially, we will have to survive some bumpy times. And I think we're about to have a few of those probably through, 2025, something like that, till the next halving. Let's talk about mining profitability for the day and get into it. All right, so mining profitability, expected earnings is $193 which comes out to 0.067 Ethereum. Now, to be clear, obviously we are on Hivon pool right now. Are we noticing much of a difference from two miners? No, not really. Now, other than that, I don't have to pay for the rig cost, which saves me some moolah, and we're getting about the same payouts as we were yesterday. Now, that could be different, of course. We'll have to monitor it and see how it goes, but this is currently where it's at. Mining profitability is not that great. Would I have been better on two miners for the past 24 hours? Maybe. It's kind of hard to tell, but this is kind of where we sit as far as mining profitability goes for the day. I am no longer mining on Luck Pool for VerisHash because we have moved everything over to Darrow. Now, a couple notes about Darrow, and we'll show you guys here, is that Darrow can be a little bit difficult to configure. So Darrow will essentially run on, let me pick one that's easy. So Darrow will essentially, it is supported in the latest XM rig, but you need to build your own node. Why do you need to build your own node for Darrow? Well, here's the reason why. Darrow's done something very curious with their node structure. Nodes now can be mined to by anyone. All nodes are public, provided you've opened the correct port, right? What that means, though, is that you no longer have mining pools. They've solved the mining pool problem at the very end of the day, which is actually quite impressive from a node perspective. So when you build a node you have an option to essentially have something called an integrator address. That integrator address would be the address essentially at the very base of it, for those that are not in the know, the address that the fees for the node would get paid out to. Because here's the deal, 9% of the block reward for all of Darrow goes to that public node operator. It doesn't go to the miners. It doesn't then get dispersed out to the miners. So being a node operator can be pretty financially lucrative for you as well, as long as you're aware of how to maintain it, you know, set up your nodes, make sure they're open to the public from a networking perspective, and so on. There is that. Now, the next step to that means that because you're building a node, there are some issues with, of course, the miner XMRig as it's built into Hive OS. And that's because you need to set the daemon to true and a couple other little things. And you can't really get that edited properly unless you're modifying the files. Now, what Chadwick's Gaming has done in chat, who does Raptor nodes, and I worked with him yesterday, is that he has modified basically an XMRig, a custom XMRig miner that essentially has the changes done to the config.json file that allows us to mine. So to give you an idea here, we have our own node set up, but what we had to do was come into here and set up the miner config custom, and then we're pulling from his directly right now. But we do have one that will be on our GitHub, on my GitHub, I suppose, right here, that you can pull from. And that's going to allow you to basically configure it as such, and then you'll be able to mine. You can see here that we are mining to our node that we have set up here. Now, I probably won't make this necessarily public as of yet. I guess technically it is. Yeah, it is open to the public. But I don't know that I'm going to throw that out to you guys to mine on yet at this point. But I wanted to cover all that. That's what we're doing as far as mining it. Profitability, we're going to wait, 24 hours, get kind of an idea of the profitability with the 450 kilohash we have online with it right now. And then we'll go from there. Yes, you can mine Darrow to my node. All right. Let's get into, I'd have to go and find, of course, the public IP and provide that to you guys. And then you would have to hit that port, right? So I'm debating on if I want to do that or if I think I'm going to spin it up. I'm going to spin up, I think at this point, a Darrow node in a VPS, probably like Vulture. We'll do the guide on how to spin it up. I'll spin the one up in Vulture. I'll leave my other one local because I want it local, and then I'll probably do a remote wallet. And then that way my wallet won't be on the VPS. Basically, there's a few different setups that you have to do. To give you an idea, essentially though, you have to have a registered wallet, a chain registered wallet to mine, to have the node mineable. So to protect my wallet and my local node, more than likely what I'll do is spin up a public node. I'll provide that information to you, show you a basic how to mine guide on that, and then have my remote wallet still local. That way they're not running on the same machine, whatever. And then that would be how I want to handle it from an OPSEC perspective, which I feel silly saying that because I'm not a security guy. Only a security guy out of necessity and not great at it. So let's get into mining profitability on the RTX 3090, 10 cents a kilowatt hour. After power, Ethereum's at $3.86 a day, up over yesterday. We have Cero at $2.46 a day after power, Ryo at $2.55 a day after power, and Conflux at $2.33 a day after power. Scrolling down, NiceHash for Zelhash is more profitable than mining Flux directly at $2.37 a day after power. If you mine Flux directly, it's at $2.26 a day after power, not near as close as the gap was yesterday. Octopus on NiceHash is 204, which falls below the 233 you would get if you mined it directly with the 3090. Ergo's at $1.98 a day after power, and Ravencoin's at $1.76 a day after power. Mining pool statistics. Let's see if we've had any huge changes in hash rate. We're building back up on Bitcoin, but it still seems to be about the same. Well, from about 2 exahash up from yesterday to 231 exahash a second. Difficulty here, steep climb in difficulty here in the past day. You can barely see it on the chart, but it's up to 28.23. I believe it goes up even higher. Yeah, and then it goes up to 29.79 in the last day. So a huge difficulty increase. Well, not huge, but definitely, well, according to this chart, yeah, because it's so small, that's a pretty big difficulty increase on Bitcoin right now. Let's look at Ethereum. And for Ethereum, we're down maybe 0.04 petahash a second at 1.05 petahash a second. The difficulty has dropped as well. So that's pretty good news for people mining Ethereum right now. Hopefully that maintains and we get some difficulty drops again, but we'll have to see, because in May, which is just a couple days away, tomorrow, tune into the channel. Make sure you're tuned in. Tomorrow we have the All Core Devs meeting. Tomorrow evening we'll have a report on the All Core Devs meeting. It's going to be very important that you catch that. Also tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but also in May, we will have the difficulty bombs start to go off, which means an artificial increase in difficulty on Ethereum. You're going to want to pay attention to that, because it's definitely going to change some things up in the mining markets. We have basically Ethereum Classic now at 27.04 terahash a second, still dropping down. Obviously, right before the fifthening, it was at almost 30 terahash a second. So, you know, a 10% drop so far in hash rate on Ethereum Classic. The difficulty is starting to respond, though, so hopefully that gets settled out as well. Let's take a look at Ergo. For Ergo, we have basically more of a settled out difficulty happening right now, 16.24 terahash. No crazy changes in hash rate. As long as this remains relatively stable, I think that you'll be okay on difficulty to go ahead and mine Ergo. Let's take a look at Ravencoin here, which is at 3.14 terahash a second. No huge changes, just those typical spikes. And Fluxcoin. Fluxcoin, or Flux in general, 1.95 mega solutions a second, and it is rocking and a rolling. No huge changes on Flux, other than, of course, you know, we still have those little spikes coming in here and there from NiceHash. All right. Mining pool profitability for the past 90 days. Flex pool in first, mining pool hub in second, F2 pool in third. Last 60 days, F2 pool in first, flex pool in second, mining pool hub in third. Last 30 days, crazy pool in first, F2 pool in second, flex pool in third. Last 21 days, crazy pool in first, F2 pool in second, Hivon in third. Last 14 days, crazy pool in first, F2 pool in second, Hivon in third. Last 7 days, crazy pool in first, F2 pool in second, Crux pool in third. Last 3 days, mining pool hub in first, Hivon in second, and F2 pool in third. And for the last day, mining pool hub in first, crazy pool in second, Hivon in third. Now, from a personal fundamental perspective, I'm on Hivon. Not because I don't like two miners, but that there's a few. So there's financial incentive, and then there's fundamental incentive. Why don't I go to crazy pool? That one is more financial, because unfortunately with crazy pool you have wild shifts in profitability. Hivon's a little bit more steady than that. For two miners, kind of the same thing. It's a little bit more steady, or basically trying out Hivon to get rid of the rig fees that Hive OS will charge me. And then once we get to, you know, the debate over flex pool and Ethermine, both of those basically are shutting off and restricting people from certain geographical locations that they disagree with from mining. And I don't think that you should do that. So that's kind of my reasoning behind the pool pickage that we did. Make your own decisions. Jazz Miner X4 2500 mega hash, $98.27. Gold Shell KD6 back down to $72 a day. KD5 at $48 a day, and Antminer L7 is still sticking around that $40 to $42 range. Of course, thanks to Elon Musk doing anything on Twitter, and you get that nice little Doge pump, which has come back down, but the profitability is remaining pretty good right now. Antminer S19 Pro is down to $12.64 a day if you're renting that out, $11.51 on Digibyte, so probably around $10 or $11 a day on Bitcoin. Bitcoin mining has taken a huge hit. These used to make 15 bucks a day just a couple weeks ago. And as you saw, we had that huge difficulty spike incoming. The most interesting miners that I find on BT Miners, which is a sponsor today, or just a sponsor of the channel, not today, but they did sponsor yesterday's video. Down below, you can check out the affiliate link. I am looking at getting an iPolo V1 Mini Classic Ethereum Classic miner for review, as well as I want to check out, of course, the new Gold Shell Quiet Home miner, the Litecoin and Dogecoin miner specifically. So the Gold Shell Quiet Home is listed at $4,800 here, and then the iPolo V1 Mini Classic for the Ethereum Classic at $1,700 US. So a little pricey, but I still want to see what they're going to do. Let's get into questions and answers for the day. Make sure you tag at Son of a Tech if you have a question. Super chats are never required, always appreciated, and the easiest to read, so I'll read them first, and we have a couple to go over. Stiggy38 for the 50 Knox says, do you think that ETH can compete with Bitcoin in the future? And is the microphone you use bigger than yours? What? And is the microphone you use bigger than yours? I don't know what you're talking about. That's a dirty question. So, do you think that ETH can compete with Bitcoin in the future? They're completely different things. Not at all. Never would you have Ethereum provide to the public what Bitcoin provides. Please listen to yesterday's video to get an idea of the past of Bitcoin, but because Bitcoin does not have an overseer, a ruler, that kind of overseeing class, because it doesn't have VC funding, because it has been natural and organic growth, it provides something to the public that Ethereum can never provide. Ethereum basically at this point is what I would consider a tech stock. Now, as far as price of Ethereum, that could go up, sure. And then if you want to look at it purely from a price perspective, I highly doubt it that Ethereum would ever be at the price level that Bitcoin is at, but it doesn't mean that the price wouldn't go up of Ethereum. All it means is that they are completely different things. One is a currency and one is a technology, and that's how you need to look at it from that perspective. Henry D says, thanks for the great content, and this is a $5 super chat. Am I wrong? HiveOS is not free to Hive on Pool since it takes 3% or $3 a day. Yes, so it is going to be specifically, their pricing charts are here. Let's go ahead and pull them up so you guys are up to date. And here's the pricing. So let's see. So up to 4 workers is free. So if you're a small miner, you don't have to worry about it. The pricing on the personal rigs, you're either $3 a month per rig, or you're at 3% with Hive on. When I talk to people about this, I always say, like, obviously you want to do the math out, which means doing the math of whether or not $3 per rig is better or 3% fee with Hive on Pool is better. Now, the nice thing about mining to Hive on Pool and then mining with the HiveOS, obviously here is going to be, you have less math to do at the end of the day. What is getting paid out from the pool is paid out from the pool. You don't need to take a portion of that and throw it into your farm wallet. Now, in relation to Rave OS, we do have, in relation to Rave OS, we do have a guide on Rave OS as well as simple mining. So if you are looking for essentially, and I forgot what the site is, but if you're looking for a guide for that. We do have that on YouTube. So I think you can just search Rave OS Son of a Tech. And it may be a little out of date. I think it was a year ago. And then I only did Raven coin with it. But yes, you can do Ethereum. And you can get essentially other stuff for there. Now, I haven't checked Rave OS's options for managing multiple farms, because that is something that's relevant. And I haven't checked them out in quite a bit, so I probably do need to go back through all of it, right? Anonymous Miner says, ask Son of a Tech, did you see that Solana had its best sale day and might the reason for a small up for today? Also, is Darrow less heat than Varus and or Monero? Heat, I don't know. Load averages are staying about the same. What the thing about, okay, so Darrow will, okay. If you have Intel CPUs, Darrow or Varus coin are going to be better for those. If you have AMD Ryzen, then those are good across all of them. That's a short and dirty. Darrow is performing really, really well on specifically Intel CPUs, even older generation Intel CPUs. Jim Miner says, ask Son of a Tech, greetings from Canada. Have you seen the Have you seen the article about the first city in Canada to utilize crypto mining to heat a building? North Vancouver reused that energy. Yeah, and that's a great example of my kind of argument when people get into the environmental impact of Bitcoin mining is Bitcoin mining is here to reduce waste, specifically energy waste, and is just as relevant as moving to, in my opinion, reducing waste is the easiest thing to do first and approach that, and then move to renewables. And reducing the waste of renewables is even next level, right? Now, Dallas, Texas in the US is also doing a similar thing. They will be mining, and they will be mining out of their public buildings as well. We have a $5 super chat from Nick. Says, I just wanted to show some appreciation. Your live streams are a big help and contribution to the mining community. At 750 mega hash now, shooting for that 1 gigahash. Keep pushing for that 1 gigahash, and congratulations, and thanks for the support as well. 955 Safety says, ask Son of a Tech, after ETH proof of stake, any tips on where to look next? I have 110 RTX cards that will need to chew on something. We won't know till it happens. That's really the end of the day, what's going to be kind of the determiner. I lean towards Ethereum Classic. Why do I lean towards Ethereum Classic? Well, the reason I lean towards Ethereum Classic is it will be the most familiar to retail users. You can add the network to MetaMask. You can connect your MetaMask to multiple different NFT websites to transact on. You can essentially do all of the same stuff that you do on Ethereum Classic. It will remain proof of work, and the seamless move, the seamless migration for retail users would be Ethereum Classic. Do I think that's what's going to happen? Not necessarily, because obviously if we look at these kind of interactions in the NFT space, we can't forget about the things that are already proof of stake that a lot of the retail investors are pretty hot on. Things like Solana, things like Cardano, things like Polkadot. This is the way it goes. Maybe all of them move there, and then Ethereum Classic just dies on the vine, and then the true only one that really will matter would be something like Flux, that offers essentially a completely new, different thing to develop on with the Web3 integration and all of that, and it really ends up being Flux, which for your RTX cards would be pretty good. But it's a completely unpredictable thing until it happens, and we see what the price discovery on the other networks is. Snarks Dobain says, ask Son of a Tech, my Darrow node is sinking around around block 3 million out of the current 4.1 million. Feels like it isn't going to catch up. It's been running for 2 days so far. So a couple notes about that. Now, my situation for the fast sync is a little bit different than what a lot of traditional users are going to experience. And here's what I'll tell you. The reason why I can be on traditional hard drives and sync my node faster is because I have basically am running VMware on a Dell PowerEdge 720XD with basically SAS drives in RAID 10, meaning my IO is much, much higher than yours. So that means that if you look at the guides, it needs to be on a solid state drive. If you're not on a solid state drive, it may never catch up in sync. This is something they've talked about in their Discord. Colton Nada says, ask Scientific, why is Bitcoin mining only available to Asics? I thought it used to be GPU mineable. Was it just the difficulty that caused this? So Bitcoin mining was originally CPU mineable. The idea was one CPU, one vote. And this is why I was talking about the ideal situation for crypto moving to cell phones and being dispersed globally across everybody, because that is the original intent of Bitcoin. Of course, with anything that generates money, there will be people that decide or try to figure out how to make more money. And what that interpreted into, of course, like you will see with any new coin almost, is that the natural progression goes from a new algorithm that only runs on a CPU to a miner figuring out how to build a mining software for a GPU to get more performance. And then naturally it goes from GPUs to ASICs, which stands for obviously application-specific integrated circuits, which means they've created a specific piece of computer hardware that operates really good on that algorithm. That is the exact evolution of Bitcoin. We've seen this evolution across multiple different currencies as well. Even talking about Ethereum, which, you know, has been probably the most resistant to ASICs. It still eventually always ends up having some sort of application specific circuit. And that is why Bitcoin moved to it. Basically, people saw that they could build a specific machine just to mine Bitcoin and it was going to be a lot more efficient. So they built it. The difficulty goes up because of the ASICs, the difficulty goes up because of the ASICs, not the other way around. 955 Safety says, ask Tech, I was thinking of Ethereum Classic 2, split my rigs into two sets of 4 gigahash a second, one to mine and store ETH and one to convert Ethereum to Ethereum Classic just to catch any jump in price on the merge day. That's an interesting one to do. Makes sense. Chadwick's Racing says, fast sync worked for me. Yes, you can add a fast sync command to the command you run, and it will fast sync. Now, fast sync didn't work for me personally. Real Rigo says, ask Tech, would you consider doing a paid mastermind, meeting regularly in a small group, working towards increasing farm and mining profit? I would consider it. I don't know how that would go. If you don't mind messaging me on Rocket Chat, maybe we could figure something out. All right. Boo boo. Let's get some more questions from you guys if you have any. Get them super chats going. Scott Schultz says, that's Tech, you going to do a Friday night live stream to cover that dev meeting? I will not do a live stream for the dev meeting. I do not think. There are a lot of YouTubers that will be doing the live stream. I think where I add value to that in particular are sum ups, just like we did last time. It'll probably release on like a Saturday, but you'll be able to come in on Saturday, get your 10-minute or less video, probably like 5 to 8 minutes, and you will know everything about where we stand currently with the merge. That is my goal. That's what we've been doing with these all-core dev meetings, because if I just do a live stream and a reaction to it, then we're talking about an hour long. Who wants to, like, I already am going to be annoyed watching it because frankly, they're super dry and super boring. My entire point with the all-core dev meetings is to hop in there, get the bullet points that we need from the miner's perspective, ignore everything else, put it in a summarized video and launch it. That's what I do. You can go hit probably Bitsby Trippin will probably do a stream, probably like an hour-long stream. Red Panda Mining will probably do a stream. What we will do is a quick You just need the info, the bullet points, boom, hit the channel, be done. That's it. Because I don't care about anything else. I doubt you guys do either. So that's kind of the plan there. If you want to get the information right away, obviously go watch the All Core Dev meeting yourself. If you need help interpreting it, get into chat, and I'll probably be working through interpreting it in like Rocket Chat before we go out with the video. Techie Rod asking for more likes. Thanks for being here, Techie Rod. Scott Schultz said, or not Scott, we're done there. Real Rigo says, that's not a tech. I've got a Hive OS rig that sometimes won't boot. All components individually work. Any tips on troubleshooting from here? Yeah, check CSM and make sure it's disabled in your BIOS. So unplug all of the GPUs unless you need one, unless it's it doesn't have integrated graphics. Unplug all of them. If it does have integrated graphics, bounce into the BIOS, disable CSM. Anonymous Miner says, what do you think the mini Z mega hash on Polaris will be? I don't know. Has anybody checked it yet? Oh, look at this. WhatsApp is, the bots are getting... Mr. Techie Rod, can you get rid of the WhatsApp bots for me while you're here? I keep trying to click it, but I can't. Jorge says, what are you drinking? We are drinking Gamer Subs, bro. Today, it's lemonade. You can go down in the description and purchase your own tub of Gamer Subs if you utilize cryptocurrency and Coinbase Commerce to purchase it. I did confirm, of course, with Cody GG, my rep, that you will get a Bitcoin shaker still. So there you go. Wes says, as Tech, one of my rigs crashes around 3 a.m. every morning. Then the only way I can get it rolling again is to reinstall the drivers. Any ideas why? If you're running on a USB drive, maybe switch USB drives or go to a solid state drive and SATA. Mining Depp says, ask Tech, should I buy a 3070 Ti or wait till the Intel Arc? These questions are always interesting because from this standpoint, you need to take into consideration. This goes across like all of them. Like if you're always waiting for the next thing, you'll always be waiting. Like especially the way graphics card companies announce this. Remember, Intel Arc top end, not even slated for release until Q4 of this year, and the lower end, which will be the more appealing ones for mining, from what I think will be in Q1 or the first half of 2023. That's a lot of mining profitability you're giving up in that space. So if you're waiting, you're always waiting and you're never making money. That's how I put it. You're never making revenue. Real Ergo says, that's Tech. How do you track all your revenue and costs? So essentially all you really, well, costs is a little harder. Costs, you can export. Like the hard part for costs for me is that, there's not like a dedicated bank account because it's hard to get a bank account for cryptocurrency mining. So that's a little bit harder, but you can track all of the transactions in crypto.com. Mining profitability, which is a little bit easier to do, or revenue, is all you got to do is plug in your address and extract that as a CSV, whichever address you're mining to, and boom, you'll get all the mining information that you need. Colton says, ask Tech recommendations for home Bitcoin miners that could sit in something like a kitchen and not annoy a girlfriend. That's not going to happen. Look, the best case is to get rid of the girlfriend and replace her with a really expensive ASIC miner. And it'll make you money instead of cost you money. Boom. Done. Problem solved. Yes, I have heard about that. Here, we can actually bring it up if you guys want. Maybe we can end it there. Where is it? I had seen it. I had seen that article here. Bam. So #1 on CoinDesk right now. So, Edward Snowden played key role in Zcash privacy coin's creation. The NSA whistleblower and privacy advocate was one of 6 participants in the cryptocurrency's fabled 2016 trusted setup ceremony using a pseudonym. Edward Snowden, the former U.S. defense contractor whose leaks ignited a worldwide debate about internet surveillance, played a secret role in the creation of privacy-enhancing cryptocurrency Zcash. The whistleblower, who was granted asylum in Russia and has lived there since 2013 after the U.S. charged him with espionage, was one of 6 participants in the ceremony that established Zcash's so-called trusted setup. His previously undisclosed involvement in the 2016 ceremony was revealed in a video set to be released Thursday by Zcash Media, an outfit that produces educational materials about the privacy coin. Quote, I saw it being worked on by a number of trusted academic cryptographers, and I thought it was a very interesting project, end quote, Snowden said in the video. He said he used the pseudonym John Dauberton to hide his role in the setup. In a recent message to Zcash co-creator Zuko Wilcox, Snowden agreed to make his participation public knowledge. Quote, as long as it is clear that I was never paid and had no stake, it was just a public interest thing, I think I can tell people, end quote, wrote Snowden, who is scheduled to speak at Consensus 2022 in June. I'm trying to get into Consensus 2022. If anybody has any help there, I had emailed them. I don't want to pay $900 to go. I think that I could sell more. Look, here's the thing. I could sell more tickets and do a meetup there, and then it would be worth me to pay. I don't know. I don't want to pay. That's it. Look, I don't want to pay. This is what I'm media. Give me a media badge, bro. It's ridiculous. Zcash's trusted setup. To understand Snowden's role in the Zcash ceremony of 2016, first we need to review how the cryptocurrency's privacy works. Zcash has 2 kinds of transactions, transparent and shielded. The transparent ones are visible on the public blockchain, just as a regular Bitcoin transaction is visible on the Bitcoin blockchain. The shielded transactions, however, go into privacy pools, which you can think of as black holes where they get swished together. These pools ensure that there is no way for blockchain observers to know where the coins came from or where they go. In order to set up privacy parameters of the original Sprout pool created in 2016 and Sapling pool created 2 years later, a secret cryptographic key needed to be generated for each. The key is essentially a very long number. The process of generating this number is called a trusted setup, and the problem is that anyone who knows that secret key would be able to forge as many coins as they want. Possession of the entire key could lead to counterfeiting of the supply, but it would not violate any of the current or past privacy, said Nathan Wilcox, Zuko's brother, and another ZEC co-creator. While it's somewhat reassuring that the trusted setup doesn't present a privacy risk to Zcash, the ability to counterfeit coins would clearly be a big problem. Quote, you can't launch this global internet money cryptocurrency if somebody just knows the secret and promises to throw it away, end quote, Nathan Wilcox said. So the initial team of researchers designed what's called a multi-party computation known as the ceremony. Through this process, the secret key isn't generated and held by just one person. Instead, it is split among many people, with each contributing a shard or piece of this very, very big number. This way, no single person would have a copy of the whole number. Quote, if at least one person succeeds in throwing away their part of the data, the computation is secure, end quote, said Bitcoin developer Peter Todd, one of the 6 participants in the initial ceremony. The lengths Todd went to make sure that he wasn't hacked during the process are legendary. He called the adventure an Operation Cypherpunk Desert Bus. Quote, at the very last moment, I bought a plane ticket to somewhere I wasn't planning to go. I immediately went to a car rental, immediately got a car, immediately went off to a computer store to buy the computers off the shelf, end quote, Todd recalled. I took out the Wi-Fi cards, I didn't hook up the Ethernet, and I literally ran it on a Faraday cage, an enclosure to block electromagnetic fields. Quote, I got aluminum foil and lined a box with it in multiple layers and closed the lid. Aluminum foil really blocks Wi-Fi signals very effectively, end quote, Todd said. And then Todd just started driving. The logic was that the distance between him and any potential adversaries would help prevent anyone getting close enough to his machine to send commands or exploits. Quote, if you're in a car hurling down the highway, it's really hard for the NSA agents who had no idea you were going to do this actually follow you, end quote, Todd said. I also had cameras on the car in the front and back, so had someone tried to do that, I'd get them on camera. The ceremony was also written up in Fortune and documented in an episode of the Radio Lab podcast. These accounts focused on the involvement of Zuku and his brothers, and the Fortune piece reads like something of a sci-fi fantasy novel, complete with wizards' hats and crackling conflagrations of lighter fluid melting computing equipment. But the most mysterious part of the ceremony was the participant known as John Dobbertin, whose real identity had remained unknown until today. Aside from Snowden, Todd and Wilcox brothers, Peter Van Valkenburg and Coin Center think tank and security engineer Derek Hinch, then with contractor NCC Group, now at Amazon, took part in the proceedings. Quote, when it came to this concept that they needed many people in many places all cooperating in the hopes that just one of them might not be compromised, might not work sort of against the public interest, and that was necessary for the ceremony to succeed. I was happy to say, sure, I'll help, Snowden recounted in his interview with Zcash Media. Regardless of whether you light your equipment on fire afterwards or include one of the world's best known privacy advocates, and no matter how secure all the participants were, there is no way to know after the fact whether the ceremony succeeded or not. Quote, all I do is run a piece of software, honestly, on a computer that's clean, and then do my best to prevent the computer from being wiretapped, end quote, Todd said. Unfortunately, on that software, there are lots of ways somebody could have surreptitiously changed it so that the number itself would not have been created randomly. There are roundabout ways we can tell that extra Zcash hasn't been created due to the supply being audited during pool migration. 2 years after the original Sprout pool was set up, a new pool called Sapling was created with significantly improved technology in a ceremony that included hundreds of participants. We can tell that the coins have migrated to the new pool do not exceed the amount of Zcash that is meant to exist. Furthermore, the network will reject any transactions that exceed the amount of Zcash that the pool is meant to contain. Despite this assurance and the hard supply cap of 21 million units that Zcash inherited from the Bitcoin code base, it still doesn't provide 100% proof that the ceremony succeeded. So Zcash researchers figured out how to get rid of the trusted setup, and at the end of May, the team plans to launch a third pool with their Halo upgrade. This pool, known as Orchard, would not require a trusted setup, and as coins migrate there, the systemic risk will be eliminated, Nathan Wilcox said. According to his brother Zuku, Snowden wasn't the only controversial figure who aided Zcash early on. Quote, when we were designing the setup ceremony, I visited Julian Assange in the Ecuadorian embassy in London and asked for his advice on how to design it, end quote, Zuku Wilcox said. The WikiLeaks founder, quote, advised us to emphasize and prioritize the part about air gapping the computer nodes, which we did, end quote. So what's the end of the story here? We have basically a privacy coin that's getting more private. Sounds like a good idea. And I mean, obviously it's an interesting story, a little bit of a history lesson in Zcash in general. They've had some issues in the past. If you wanted to mine Zcash, since this is the mining channel, you can go to btminers.com. You can look for like a Z15 or something along those lines. Let's scroll down and see if they have any. I don't see any Z miners here, actually. Let's do a search. There's one. Use used, 9,900, new, 14.5. ASIC miners, the Z15 does about 15 bucks a day. It's been on Pirate Coin. Now, I did want to say this. Pirate Coin versus Zcash, which would I trust? Probably Zcash. Pirate Coin is just a Komodo fork, and the reason I know that is because I am utilizing Komodo for Soapcoin. All right, so that's why I've been working on Soapcoins, because I'm getting a better idea of where all these coins come from, how easy they are to develop, and which ones we should pay attention to and not pay attention to. Does that make sense? Typically, like, the more difficult I see it is for me to do, the more I trust it. If I can't do it at all, then I trust it even a little bit more, right? That's kind of how I look at it. Modern Disposal says, does GamerSups use real sugar or aspartame? Let's go ahead and take a look for you. I thought it was in here. I know it's not real sugar. Doesn't look like it's any sugar. What is that then? Sugar-free, citric acid, ethanol, natural and artificial flavors, which I don't like the artificial coloring either. Silica, sucralose. There you go. Boom. Done. Thanks everybody for watching. I gotta head to Jiu-Jitsu. Hit the like, hit the comment, hit the notification bell, share the channel out with everybody that's interested in crypto mining and crypto in general from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I'll do my best to be, honest and diligent as possible with the channel. And I just want to thank everybody for all the support. It definitely means a lot. I'm trying to put a lot more work into getting more guides and specific things like that. I know we kind of fell off the guide bus for a little bit, but they are hitting. We've had 2 in the past week already. I'm hoping for a 3rd, maybe today at some point. I don't know if we'll hit one today. Today's Thursday. Thursdays are my drive around days. But the Rocket Chat link is under the membership tab on the main YouTube page. Also below the channel, you can purchase a Keep Calm Mine On shirt, as well as, let me see if I got it. It doesn't fit me, but I got it here somewhere. As well as, and this is a small shirt, the Straight Outta Power shirt. Both shirts I designed myself in Inkscape. And we get a few dollars off of them. So then take a picture of it and put it on Twitter. You can use Twitter again. They're starting to remove all that code. You can use it again. That's what I hear. I will see you guys next Tuesday.